Boris Johnson will visit Scotland on Thursday to highlight the benefits of the Union in the fight against coronavirus. The Prime Minister is to emphasise his government's multi-billion-pound UK-wide financial support to help businesses and employees through the pandemic. He will also point to the key role played by the armed forces in rolling out COVID vaccines. His high-profile visit follows renewed demands from Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon and her SNP allies for a rerun of the 2014 referendum on Scottish independence. Ahead of his visit, Boris Johnson said, "The great benefits of cooperation across the whole of the UK have never been clearer than since the beginning of this pandemic. We have pulled together to defeat the virus, providing £8.6 billion to the Scottish Government to support public services whilst also protecting the jobs of more than 930,000 citizens in Scotland. We have a vaccine program developed in labs in Oxford being administered across the United Kingdom by our armed forces, who are helping to establish 80 new vaccine centres across Scotland. That's how we are delivering for the people of Scotland so we can ensure the strongest possible recovery from the virus. Mutual cooperation across the UK throughout this pandemic is exactly what the people of Scotland expect, and it is what I have been focused on. The people of the UK have stood together during this pandemic. From our doctors and nurses in our hospitals to our shop workers, scientists, lorry drivers and teachers. Working together as one truly united kingdom is the best way to build our COVID recovery." Ms Sturgeon on Wednesday attacked the Prime Minister's planned visit as an example of non-essential travel during the pandemic. Speaking at her daily televised virus briefing, the Scottish First Minister said, "I am not and never will be saying that Boris Johnson is not welcome in Scotland. He's the Prime Minister of the UK. Boris Johnson is not unwelcome in Scotland even if I had the ability to stop him. That's not what this is about. But we're living in a global pandemic. And every day right now I stand, look down the camera and say what I'm about to say. Boris Johnson does it. I heard him do it as recently as yesterday. Don't travel unless it is really essential. Work from home if you possibly can. That has to apply to all of us. People like me and Boris Johnson have to be in work for reasons that I think most people understand, but we don't have to travel across the UK as part of that. Is that really essential right now? Because we have a duty to lead by example. If we are going to suggest that we don't take these rules as seriously as we should, it gets harder to convince other people. So that's why I perhaps am not ecstatic about the thought of the Prime Minister visiting." She added, "I'm sure he and his advisors will take great care to make sure he's not breaking any laws. I take that as read. But we all have to make judgments on what we genuinely think is essential right now. I think that applies not just to cross-border travel but to travel within our respective countries." UK government officials said the British Armed Forces were helping to establish 80 new vaccine centres in Scotland. A third of Scottish ambulance calls were being taken by centres in England over the weekend, following a high level of staff absence for call handlers in the Scottish ambulance service related to COVID-19. With ongoing mutual aid, the UK government has now also delivered over 1 million rapid lateral flow test kits to Scotland so far and is funding sites across Scotland, including 7 drive-through testing centres and 27 walk those sites, as well as funding 21 mobile testing units and the Lighthouse Lab in Glasgow. Overall, the UK government has provided 62% of testing kits in Scotland, officials said. Boris Johnson's visit to Scotland has been reported to the police after the SNP lashed out at the visit. The SNP criticised the Prime Minister's visit and suggested it broke coronavirus rules. Scotland is currently on a strict lockdown that bans all but non-essential travel. First Minister Nicola Sturgeon said, "I would say me travelling from Edinburgh to Aberdeen to visit a vaccination centre right now is not essential. And Boris Johnson travelling from London to wherever he is in Scotland to do the same is not essential. If we're asking other people to abide by that, then I'm sorry but it's probably incumbent on us to do likewise." A Police Scotland spokesman said, "We have received a small number of complaints regarding Prime Minister Boris Johnson's visits to Scotland. This is a working visit in his official capacity as Prime Minister and we are policing the event appropriately."